the Newshour Special Edition.
Viewers, let's turn our focus to a dossier that nails Pakistan's fraud. Funds collected in the name of flood relief are being diverted to rebuild Lashkar's destroyed headquarters in Muridke. What India flattened under Operation Sindoor, Islamabad is now rebuilding brick by brick. From rubble to reconstruction, most of it paid for by diverting relief money. And this is not the first time. The playbook is identical to 2005, when Jamaat al-Dawa raised earthquake relief and 80% went into terror infrastructure. Now the same fraud is being repeated with flood relief funds. Cadres are seen posing as humanitarian workers, taking pictures alongside officials, distributing token supplies, but the real cash flow is into terror dens. The cost of rebuilding Muridke headquarters is over 15 crore Pakistani rupiah. Pakistan's government has already released 4 crore PKR. The shortfall is being made up through this fraudulent relief campaign. This is the real face of Islamabad. Flood aid is being laundered into terror aid. Disaster relief has become disaster funding for India. And the question is, how long will the world stay silent as Pakistan continues to divert humanitarian money into jihadi factories? Remember, on the 7th of May this year at 12:35 a.m., the Indian Air Force executed Operation Sindoor with precision. In that successful operation, Lashkar's Markaz Taiba headquarters at Muridke near Lahore was hit. As per sources, inside the complex, 3-4 buildings were hit. Take a look at these exclusive visuals. A red accommodation block that stored weapons. 2 yellow structures called Khora that were training facilities and commander residences. They were flattened. The damage was so severe and so punishing that only skeletal remains survived, as you can see on your screens. But now Times Now has accessed undeniable evidence, viewers, of Pakistan's complicity. How the Pakistani rogue state helped Lashkar rebuild its headquarters by giving it crores in funding. As per this dossier, Hafiz Saeed's terror puppets began a systematic demolition and rebuilding drive. On the 18th of August this year, 5 JCBs moved in. 2 days later, by the 20th, part of Khora was razed. Next month, on the 4th of September, the yellow building was fully torn down. And on the 7th of September, the red 3-story accommodation block was demolished as well. Now, this entire complex is reduced to rubble. Debris clearance is underway. And as per sources, in its next phase, brand new facilities for Lashkar-e-Toiba will be ready. And the deadline given by Lashkar and ISI is by the 5th of February 2026, which is Kashmir Solidarity Day. That's when Lashkar holds its annual Jihad convention.
It's very surprising. That's what I would like people of Pakistan to understand this, that on the pretext of providing assistance to people, to the affected people in flood, you are collecting donations, and that is being used to rebuild a terror headquarters at Muridke. People should watch what kind of rulers you have, what kind of army generals who run the show in Pakistan are there, who are providing government money which actually should have gone to the poor people who have been affected by terror, terrible floods in Pakistan.
All right, let me welcome my guests on the show tonight. Major General Sanjay Meston, defense analyst, joins us, as well as Mr. Brahma Chelani, strategic affairs expert, joining us as well. Good evening and namaskar to both of you gentlemen. General Meston, are we surprised at all that Pakistan is using aid money to aid terrorists, to help them rebuild their infrastructure which India had destroyed?
Not at all. There is no surprise on this account, because Pakistan Army, the ISI, and of course the terrorists, they are the ones who survive in Pakistan, and therefore the Pakistan Army and the ISI is actively funding the re-raising of the LET headquarters, which was destroyed by the most precision, brilliant, outstanding precision-oriented strike at Muridke headquarters, and it was totally decimated. But here again they are funding it. And mind you, remember when the Indian Air Force had conducted this brilliant operations, the next day in the Janaza, I think it was announced that each family who has lost their kith and kin, the so-called terrorists, 1 crore or something of that money will be paid. And that's the time precisely I think the IMF loan was to be released in a day or two.
Yeah.
So all IMF loans and the flood funding money from the international aid agencies, everything goes only to the terrorists. And I think Mr. Ved, even in your interview, was mentioning very, very rightfully that, you know, the Pakistan is only sponsoring the terrorists and the world just keeps looking at it. So it's no surprise, and it was expected that they will focus on their terrorists. They do not focus on the people of Pakistan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They should draw lessons from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and also from Nepal. If the center of gravity, the people are neglected, one day the same people will revolt, and I think Pakistan has seen this trailer just a year and a half back when they had burned the corps commanders' headquarters, the residence, and they had also struck their military and air force bases. It was done by the people of Pakistan. So I think Pakistan will realize shortly that if they neglect its people, it's going to repay them in some or the other way.
Well, I think they have been neglecting their people for decades now. But Brahmachalani, you know, the important point here is this IMF funding that Pakistan keeps getting, through which it is, you know, further funding its terror activities against India. Pakistan was taken out of the grey list back in 2022 under the FATF, but it proved to the IMF that it has taken steps against money laundering and counter-terror activities, and therefore it was out of that grey list. When people here can understand what Pakistan is doing, why does the IMF and global funding agencies refuse to see that?
Pakistan's nexus with terror groups runs deep. It has long served as an epicenter of international terrorism. The US knows that, so does the IMF, and so does the FATF. But Pakistan is still valued by the US as a major partner in, quote-unquote, countering terrorism, to quote US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. These were his words recently. And I think this US policy emboldens Pakistan, which is the reason why Pakistan believes it can get away by continuing to sponsor such groups like the LAT, which are just a front organization for Pakistan's ISI. And all this raises a fundamental question about Indian policy, that should we just go after the puppeteers, the puppets rather than the puppeteers, because these terrorist elements in Pakistan are expendable. Terrorists are not independent actors. They are proxies of the Pakistan military, which treats these terrorists as foot soldiers, as expendable elements. If some are killed, many more can be raised from Pakistan's vast madrasa network. Now, in Operation Sindoor, according to Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, from what he told Lok Sabha during the recent debate on Operation Sindoor, that Operation Sindoor killed over 100 terrorists. Now, more than 100 terrorists may have been killed, but Pakistan will be able to raise more than that number from that madrasa network that it has. And therefore, this raises the question whether India is willing to review its approach. The approach right now is to go after the puppets, but not the puppeteers. For example, in the Operation Sindoor debate in Lok Sabha, the defense minister mentioned, that when Operation Sindoor was launched on May 7th morning, India only targeted terrorist camps and conveyed to Pakistan 30 minutes later that it did not hit any military installation in Pakistan, that its attack was only on terrorist camps. And the message that was conveyed was that if Pakistan did not retaliate, India was willing to call off its operation. But Pakistan did respond by seeking to strike Indian military facilities and and therefore India had to respond in kind.
Yeah.
But
here's my point. Here's my point, General Meston, that when we've seen Pakistan resort to the same kind of anti-India activities, we're seeing it now. We've got these visuals for our viewers where, construction activities, rebuilding activity is underway in Muridke. And the cycle keeps repeating. This is not the first time that Pakistan is using this relief money to fund its terror infrastructure. What is the way out then? Because this keeps on happening. The cycle keeps on happening. Where does it stop?
Yeah, very good question raised, Shreya. Where does it stop and what do we do? See, firstly, why the LAT is, rebuilding or reconstructing its so-called headquarters. I think they have drawn a big lesson from the Israel-Hamas conflict. And this time they will go deep. They will make a lot of underground tunnels, make them very, very deep. And they may be even connected to some of the Pakistan Army, headquarters. Because that will give them total freedom of movement laterally underground. And that advantage now I think they will accrue from this Israel-Hamas war. What do we do? See, finishing off terrorism is not easy. But the way out is, I think we have to, develop a strategy which focuses firstly on the people of Pakistan, that how Pakistan Army and of course the ISI is ruining their state so badly and they're neglecting their people. And I think this is a propaganda warfare which India has to take on that, so that people in Pakistan can draw comparison. Of course they are seeing it, but now it has to be made more effective. They have to see the same countries, they got divided. And of course India got divided, not the same countries. Artificially created state Pakistan was created. But now they must realize, where is Indian economy headed to? Where is Indian armed forces headed to? Where is the might of India headed to? We are today going to be the third largest economy. And today we are a major role in the international dynamics or international politics.
But General Meston, in the era that we are living in, where social media is so prevalent, do you not think that Pakistani citizens can see the stark difference?
Yeah, definitely.
Do they not realize it?
Yeah, definitely they can see that. And I remember when I was posted in Afghanistan as a defense attaché, I had come across some Pakistani youth and Afghani youth who had studied in Pakistan. The young generation of Pakistan stated very clearly that they regret partition, and their statements were, look where India has reached and where has Pakistan reached. It's gone down the drain. So they understand, Shreya, you're very right, but I think more effective propaganda is required. But now the nerve center is the Pakistan Army and the ISI. I think now we need to target them, and there are various ways and strategies to target them. It can be done, and I think we need to take America and West on the board. They cannot do duplicacy with a country like Pakistan. They support them, and at the same time, Bin Laden was found there. So I think the United States, our diplomacy and our policy has to be such that they have to be on board with us. They can't, shelter Pakistan and do cryptocurrency and all these kind of things, which is not called for. So India has to be stern in every manner.
Okay, Brahmachalani, clearly America is not perhaps going to be coming on board as far as Pakistan is concerned. There's a lot at stake for the Trump administration. Do we and should we be expecting that we can have some sort of support from the US under the Donald Trump administration?
The fight against cross-border terrorism is largely a lonely fight for India. India cannot count on US assistance. But look at the situation. Pakistan is much smaller than India, economically, demographically, territorially, yet it continues to bleed India. Why? Because we do not impose sufficient costs on the Pakistani state. You don't need a propaganda war against Pakistan. The Pakistanis are not foolish, as you rightly point out, to understand the disparity with India, economic and in other indices of power. The issue is this, that as long as India does not impose sustained costs on Pakistan, the Pakistani generals will feel emboldened to keep bleeding India. That's the reason why we should focus on imposing costs on the terror masters, not instead of seeking to impose costs on the puppets of these terror masters, because you can kill any number of these terrorists, and many more will proliferate in Pakistan. So we need to change our approach, and we need to recognize, Shreya, that unless we do not impose sustained costs on Pakistan, the Pakistani state, despite being much smaller than India, will continue to bleed India.
Okay. General Messon, as we speak, there's also a revolt that is happening in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. People are saying that we want our basic necessities being fulfilled. They're protesting against the Shehbaz government. You've got about additional 2,000 security personnel being deployed in the region to prevent any exigency. And therefore, that leads to the question, when their own house is not in order, when Pakistan claims that that is their people, that is their land, and people are against the government in Pakistan, against the administration, where does it leave this country?
See, firstly, Pakistan Army and ISI, you asked me?
Yes. General Messon, go ahead.
Yeah, firstly, Pakistan Army and the ISI is very clear. They don't call the Baluchis or the Pashtuns in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or the POK or Sindh as their own people. These are facts of life, hard facts of life. For them, it is only Pakistan Punjabis. That is prime importance. And therefore, they don't mind shedding blood of all these people. You look at Baluchistan. They used to throw, when I was in Afghanistan, I remember a Baluchi general told me that the Pakistan Army would take these Baluchis and put them into the helicopters of the Pakistan Army and throw them from top, so that people watch how these chaps are being thrown, and they are thrown against rocks and everything, so that they die instantaneously. Such, kind of rubbish methods they have used. Look at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The same Pakistan Army and the ISI trained all these people, Pashtuns, to go against the ISFN and the American interest for 20 years in Afghanistan. And the same ISI today is not, and the same Pakistan Army is rather fighting these same people, the TTP. And of course, being supported by Afghan Taliban. So imagine the plight of these soldiers, who they will say, we trained them and today we are supposed to fight back. Similarly, look at POK. They have just neglected them. So there is no doubt, you asked a very relevant question, where does it lead to Pakistan? I think Pakistan is a failed and a collapsed state. There is no doubt, and I think in due course of time, let's see Balochistan as an independent country. POK may join India. Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa may join Greater Afghanistan. So God knows what is going to happen, but things are not looking very, very bright for Pakistan. Because terrorists or a terrorist state cannot control its own people and its own state, because they will certainly disintegrate. Because they are the ones who are spreading this vicious poison. The same poison is going to strike them back, Shreya.
Okay. Ramachalani, comment on this. Where do you see this moving forward, considering the fact that obviously the civil administration never had control in Pakistan? Every time there is an elected prime minister, he's thrown into jail. Case in point, currently you've got Imran Khan being tortured inside prison. You've got domestic issues that plague. You've got citizens that do not and are not satisfied with what the government is doing. They say there is no welfare happening for us in Pakistan. And yet Pakistan continues to share the global stage with America. They continue to get the money that matters the most to them in this entire state of affairs.
You actually point to the core issue, the reason why the nexus between the Pakistani state and the terror groups still remains intact. It is the civil-military relations in Pakistan. That equation has always been skewed. The military dominates Pakistani politics. It even has a major say in Pakistan's economy. The de facto ruler of Pakistan is the army chief, and the Americans like that. Successive US administrations have actually helped the Pakistan military to remain dominant in Pakistan. And the US intervention in certain events in Pakistan has been very crucial in helping the Pakistan Army retain its dominance in the affairs of the Pakistani state, including at the political level. That's the reason why President Trump recently hosted the self-styled, self-minted field marshal from Pakistan at the White House, hosted him to a lunch, which is very unusual because never before has a U.S. president, any U.S. president, hosted a foreign army chief, unless that army chief also happened to be the president or prime minister of this country. This is the first time when a president of the United States actually hosted an army chief of a foreign country, and it was a quite an important meeting in that sense because it conveyed that the U.S. policy remains under Trump still values Pakistan as a strategic asset for the U.S. And this is ironical because in his first term, Trump had actually cut off security assistance to Pakistan. He had said publicly that Pakistan, despite being provided billions of dollars by the U.S., has only returned, has only provided terrorists and terrorism to the U.S. And now in his second term, he has a new love affair with Pakistan. And I think all this is an eye-opener for India that in its fight against cross-border terrorism, India will have to rely largely on its own strength.
That's right. That's right. And, as I always say, the only thing constant in Donald Trump is the fact that he's not constant. The only thing constant in Pakistan is the fact that it continues to do what it always has, that is perpetrate terror. But thank you very much. I'll leave it here. General Meston, to you as well as Mr. Brahmachalani. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening and sharing your perspective.